Have you ever wanted to add some magic to your music? Well, you're in luck. In this video, we'll be diving into the world of the augmented chord. Those mysterious, tension-filled sounds that can transform your compositions from ordinary to extraordinary. Hello, I'm Mike Hayes, and in this lesson we'll be taking an up-close and personal look at one of the two most important harmonic structures that will totally open up the fingerboard for you. I know you're going to enjoy it. It's really quite fascinating. So let's get on with it and see what we've got in store for you today. By lowering any note in an augmented triad by a semitone, we will discover a major triad. I'll walk you through the process so you can see what I mean. The first thing to keep in mind is that any note in an augmented triad can be the root note. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to name this augmented shape C augmented. When I lower the G sharp on the first string by a semitone, it reveals a C major triad. Let's return back to our original augmented chord shape. This time, let's name this shape G sharp augmented. If we were to lower the note E on the second string by a semitone, we would discover that we have a G sharp or A flat major triad hiding in plain view. Right then, back to our original augmented shape. This time I'll name the shape E augmented. If we lower the note C on the third string by a semitone, we'll discover an E major triad. Since the augmented chord is a symmetrical chord, meaning that the notes of the augmented chord are all the same distance apart from each other, and each note is a major third away from each other, the distance between a C and E is a major third, and then if we measure the distance between E and G sharp, we'll discover that that is also a major third. What this means that if we divide the number 3, that is the number of notes in the augmented triad, if we divide that number 3 into 12, which is the 12 notes of the chromatic scale, we'll discover that the augmented chord repeats every 4 frets. Let's have a look at how that works on the guitar fingerboard. Okay, here's our C augmented shapes. Notice how each one of the shapes are a distance of 4 frets apart, and that each chord shape contains exactly the same notes, only in a different order. If we were to lower the G sharp in any of these augmented shapes, it would reveal a C major chord, like this. Right then, back to our original augmented chord shape. This time let's refer to this chord as an E augmented. And so here are the 3 E augmented chord shapes. By lowering the note C, one semitone, in each one of these chord shapes, you will discover the E major shapes that are derived from the E augmented chord, like this. And once more back to the original augmented chord shape. This time let's name the chord as G sharp augmented. And here are the G sharp augmented chord shapes. If we lower the note E by a semitone, we will have the 3 G sharp major or A flat major triads derived from the G sharp augmented chord shape, like this. And now here's another interesting fact about augmented chords. Let's return back to our original augmented chord shape, and let's go back to calling this chord C augmented. Okay, we discovered that by lowering the G sharp a semitone, it produced a C major triad. And now if we went back to this chord shape, and this time instead of lowering the G sharp a semitone, if we were to raise the G sharp a semitone to the note A, what we discover is that we have an A minor triad. And the significance of this is that A minor is the relative minor to C major. And this process of finding related chords that can be derived from the augmented chord shape works with every note in the augmented triad. So once more, let's head back to our original augmented chord shape. This time, let's name this chord E augmented. And as we discovered before, if we lower the note C a semitone, this produces an E major triad. Now let's suppose this time, instead of lowering that C note a semitone, let's say we raise that C up to C sharp. And when we do that, the triad that's produced is a C sharp minor triad. And of course, the relationship between C sharp minor and E major is that C sharp minor is the relative minor to E major. Okay, we've got one more note left in our augmented triad. For ease of operation, I'm going to name this note A flat. And as we discovered before, by lowering the note E in our augmented triad, we can produce an A flat major triad. If we go back to our original augmented shape, and this time instead of lowering the note E by a semitone, if we raise that E note up a semitone, we will have an F minor triad. And the relationship between F minor and A flat major is that F minor is the relative minor to A flat major. Okay, it's time to have a listen to how these chords sound and how we can apply them to our music. In this first example, I'm going to play C major, C augmented, A minor, C augmented, and then back to C major. In this next example, I'll be playing E major, E augmented, C sharp minor, E augmented, back to E major. And now here's A flat major, A flat augmented, F minor, A flat augmented, back to A flat. In this next example, I'm going to think about the A minor triad in a different way. I'm going to think of this chord as a C6 rather than A minor. So the chord progression that I'm going to play is C, C augmented, C6, which is really our A minor triad we played before, moving to a C dominant 7th chord. I'm using this C dominant 7th chord to connect me to an F chord, and then I'm going to repeat the same sequence, only this time with F. It'll be F major, F augmented, F6, F dominant 7th. Let's have a listen. Now, before we go any further, I couldn't resist putting on an example of how this type of chord sequence works in a tune. I'm going to use 8 bars from a beautiful tune called Deep in a Dream. Here we go. And now to finish off, let's have a real good workout with our major, augmented, 6th and dominant 7th chord sequence, moving right around a cycle progression. Good luck. Well, that's it for today, folks. I do hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope there's something in this lesson that'll help you develop your own musical style on guitar. If you enjoyed this session and felt you got some value out of it and you'd like to support this channel, there's a link in the description below this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on all the good stuff. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like. It really helps us out. Until next time, all the very best with your guitar playing. Bye for now.